This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you're building a new computer or upgrading an existing one, Newegg has everything that you need to get started, from processors and motherboards to power supplies and water coolers, or full systems. You can get it all at Newegg. And every day they have some daily deals. Today we've got a video card, an MSI laptop, and all kinds of other stuff as well, flash drives. Like I said, those deals change every day. To find out what the daily deal is and to see all the other products, you can go to pilchpoint.live/Newegg. So, I guess one of the topics that's been in the news lately in the tech world has been international relations on technology. And we're likely about to start seeing some effects from it, right?
I think we're already seeing it, but it's going to be a lot more visible. So, as many of us know, the U.S. is in a trade war with China, which is where a lot of our electronics, a lot of our computers, a lot of our components are manufactured, and recently, the Trump administration announced that it was increasing the tariffs, which had been at 10%, to adding a 25% tariff on $200 billion worth of products. And in fact, supposedly there may be a wave even coming after that. But, this new 25% was announced just a couple of weeks ago, and I remember reading that just last weekend, the first ships to arrive in port were being charged the tariffs. So when we were at Computex, this was a very big topic of conversation wherever we went, whenever we asked about prices of things. Usually, off the record, vendors were telling us, we really can't tell you what the price of our products is going to be because we're not really sure yet how these tariffs are going to pan out, whether there's going to be more tariffs. But, we know the prices are going to be higher than we'd like them to be. So we talk with companies and they'd say, well, we'd really like to charge like $90 for this headset. That's what we had planned. But we got to see, because we think we're going to have to, this is being sourced from China, and we think, we might have to charge significantly more than that. So, normally when we go to a trade show, companies say, hey, sometimes they'll say, hey, we don't know what price is going to be yet. We're still working it out. But this is the first time I've seen companies say, well, we know what we'd like to charge, but we don't know how much we're going to have to build into the price because of the taxes. Because you're talking about a 25%. When they had to take a 10% hike, some of that did end up in the prices, but people perhaps didn't notice it.
Sure.
Like I was hearing from some vendors, well, these motherboards are actually selling for a few dollars more than they would have, but hey, people may not notice because they haven't bought a motherboard in a couple of years. The price isn't that much higher. We've absorbed some of the loss, but as these tariffs are getting higher, the likelihood of this being a very significant impact on the price of your computers starting in the next month or two, and definitely unless there's some resolution in the political situation going through the holiday season at least, is significant. Everybody's very concerned about how this might affect the bottom line in the tech industry, but it's also having another effect. So we talked to MSI CEO Charles Chang about this, and he said, he's one person who would go on the record talking about it, and he said that they are doing something a lot of companies are doing, which is they're moving a lot of their manufacturing capacity out of China, but they're moving it to Taiwan. Or they're looking at long-term moving it to Thailand and Vietnam. So or the Philippines. So other Asian countries are the beneficiary of this. But even when they do that move, it's still going to cost you more because the labor and the manufacturing costs are higher when you move out of mainland China. There's been so much optimization to the supply chain when you're manufacturing in say Shenzhen, China, which is where a lot of the manufacturing is, and labor costs are much higher in other countries. So, in other words, you can expect to be paying more for your electronics very soon, and it's not the kind of thing where you're going to know exactly how much more you're paying versus what you would have paid, but perhaps we'll get glimpses of it if you have a product that's already on the market and you see it going up by let's say you have a motherboard that was $100 and now it's $120 all the time. That might tell you that it was tariffs. So obviously one thing is the companies, they don't want people to know that this is why the price is going up per se. I think they just don't want to be trying to make a political statement. They just want to be able to sell product. On the other hand, there are going to be winners and losers. MSI told us that another company, EVGA, had a lot of problems over mitigating the tariffs, so their prices went up, and MSI figured out how to sort of, do the workaround, have some of their stuff manufactured in Taiwan, whatever. And so now they've pulled ahead of EVGA in the U.S. market because they were able to deal with the tariffs better. So it's not going to have the same effect on every brand. It obviously depends on what they're manufacturing in China already and have to move or pay tariffs on, and what they're not. But overall, I think we're going to see a tremendous impact from this over the next 6 months or so. And the average consumer may not know for sure exactly why the price of something is higher than it might have been. And in some cases, if it's a brand new product, you might not know that actually it really should have been or would have been, $10, $20, $30 less. Now that's if you're talking about, a relatively low ticket item. But when you're talking, this is going to affect systems. This is going to affect laptops. This is going to affect desktops. So, you could be talking about, a $1,200 laptop that now costs $1,400. So it's it's hard to say exactly. Obviously, we'll continue at Tom's Hardware to follow this story as we have for a while, but it's it doesn't look like there's resolution to the issues between the United States and China anytime soon. In fact, it looks like it's going to get worse before it gets better, as China is doing some retaliatory tariffs, and there's even more rounds of tariffs that have been threatened by the United States. Ultimately, unfortunately, right now, these are not really solving any problems for either country, because it's not really creating a better market for U.S. products in China, and it's not creating it's not bringing any jobs to U.S. manufacturing. They're only going to other Asian countries. So it's not going to suddenly bring PC manufacturing back to the U.S. But anyway, that's kind of something to keep an eye out for. I guess my advice to people would be, if you were thinking of buying something and it's already out, and you were thinking, oh, I wonder if this is going to get cheaper on Black Friday or something, it may not. So, keep that in mind.
That's an interesting point that I hadn't really considered, was people waiting for Black Friday and things like that. Uh, that there's almost no way that any of this gets any kind of resolution by then.
Yeah, your Black Friday price might be the pre-tariff price, right? Like it
Right.
might be what the price is now. It might be what all of a sudden it goes up and then it goes down again. Obviously, there's a lot of price trackers in the world, including Camel.com, which is a great one, and PC Part Picker, which is another really good one. So you could see what something used to cost if it's something that existed pre-tariff. If it's a new motherboard coming out, a new CPU, a new laptop coming out a month from now, it's hard to say what it would have cost, without tariffs. So this is the kind of thing, obviously, at Tom's Hardware, we'll be trying to kind of keep a track on what the impact is, what products are being impacted more than others. But it's also kind of scary, not just from the perspective of you may have to pay more, but what the spillover from that is going to be to the industry as a whole. If people are paying more, people are buying less stuff. If the companies have to absorb some costs, maybe they're spending less on advertising and marketing. So there's a lot of sort of spillover effects to the tech industry that we could see. And one thing also is apparently consumer confidence. One of the things that MSI CEO Charles Chang said to us is he thinks that consumers are also, a lot of them are holding out to see if the tariffs go up or down or something. So there are people not. There's also some pent up demand. Overall, it's hard to see. I mean, maybe the price increases will be such that people will just keep rolling with the punches. I mean, maybe if it's only $10, $20, $30 on a motherboard or a keyboard or something, people won't notice that much. I don't know. But it certainly has the potential to really make a huge difference in people's holiday and back-to-school shopping season this year.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like you said, 10% on a $100 product is very different than 10% on a
25%.
20. That's what I meant. 25% on a $7,000 or $35,000 Mac Pro.
If you're buying Mac Pro, you probably don't notice.
Well, it's
someone else's money. It's the company money.
But if you're looking at something like that, you're looking at a $3,000 Razer laptop or something like that. Adding 25%, even 10% to that, adding another $300 is noticeable, but adding another $600,
more like
$750, is a lot.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, I don't think you're going to see it be a perfect 25% because companies will find ways of slashing a cost elsewhere. And a lot of them will avoid the 25% by doing other things that will raise the cost, but not because of tariffs. Like if they move production to Taiwan, they won't have to pay the tariff, but the cost of manufacturing there will be more. Will it be 25% more? Probably not. So they're going to save some money that way. But first of all, it takes a long time to ramp up production in other locations, particularly if you're a company that doesn't have a lot of capability in other locations. So some smaller companies that really have been counting on manufacturers in China to make their stuff and they don't have another place to go right away, they're going to be hurt the most. It's not going to be the pain's not going to be spread equally among different manufacturers.
Right, yeah. Because like you said, there's always the ability for the big guys to be able to use their network, their relationships to make quick changes, but a little guy may not have that capability to shift manufacturing overnight the way somebody like MSI might be able to work with a different manufacturer that they have a relationship with in Taiwan before they can ramp up their own production or something. But a little guy is not going to have that. It's you go to the Foxcons or whoever to produce your thing, and that's just the way it works.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that like Taiwan doesn't have the resources to take back all the manufacturing that's happening in China. They have 23 million people. That's their entire population. Whereas in, I think, the province where they do most of the manufacturing in China, there's like 100 million people. So there's a lot more labor, a much larger labor market. Plus, just things like electricity, water, all the things you need to like supply a manufacturing plant. Like the infrastructure. I mean, Taiwan has obviously done lots of manufacturing, but like their infrastructure is not made to like take on to like suddenly take another however much manufacturing they didn't have before. So, these things may move eventually. I mean, one of the things that Chang said is, a lot of these, once these companies have moved some of their stuff out of China, they're probably not going to move it back because of all the expense of moving it, and they never know if this is going to happen again.
Right.
So even if it gets resolved tomorrow. So
right.
So anyway, not great news for people who are interested in people who work in the tech industry or people who buy technology. We can, no matter what your sort of political opinion on tariffs is and on the trade situation with China, it's definitely going to cause a lot of pain to people who are shopping and to businesses, including a lot of businesses here in the United States that either manufacture there or are part of the same supply chain. I mean, there's no question that like Best Buy and and Amazon and Newegg and all these companies that are retailers here will be affected by it. So, we'll have to keep an eye and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Avram, as always, I appreciate you bringing us the more nuanced things like this, because you hear about it in the news, but how does it actually affect us? That can be difficult to follow. So we definitely appreciate it.